secondary traits, and maybe they won't have them all, but they could be red flags that we might want to be able to identify and look out for. Can you share some of the significant ones with us?
Yeah, the first one I'll mention, I'll give you the most significant ones, is the idealization followed by rejection. What they'll do is when they first meet a person or they get involved in an organization or they will idealize that person or that entity. They will just it'll be perfect to them. It'll be everything they've wanted. And then suddenly out of the blue, when they're no longer interested, they will just instantly shut off like that never existed. The person never existed. So that's a very difficult thing for a person to go through. So it's instant. It's usually instant evaluation. But sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it can take years.
Wow.
But it always starts with there's no plateau. You know, when you have a good relationship with a friend or in a romantic relationship, you have a long, stable plateau where it's just going. The relationship is just working. Well, with a relationship with a psychopath, it's never like that. It's idealization right to the top, and then slowly or quickly a drop of devaluing out of the relationship. It's always a peak.
Okay, so they'll start off, pretending to be your best friend and have all these things in common, and then you find out later when they, turn on you or whatever instantaneously that apparently they had this whole big laundry list or whatever and just turn their back and walk away for really no reason, seemingly.
Yeah, and that's another thing.
And what's the benefit of that, though? Why would they do that?
Because they don't see a human being they see a human being the same way a young child sees the new toy at Christmas. They want it so badly. They're very much like infants. You know, when you were a kid and you saw something like a toy on TV or in the shops or something, and you really, really wanted it, and then you were desperate to get it, and you got it, and then you got it, and it was a thrill for a few hours, and then you quickly lost interest in it. Well, that's exactly how they are with their relationships.
Okay, so, perhaps maybe there's something for them to gain at the time, and then when it ran its course, they're not interested, they have to move on to the next target, or it might fulfill something, or it could even be maybe a conquest type. Oh, let's just see if I can conquer this or get that, and then you get it, or you think you do, and then it's just, you don't want it anymore.
Yep, you hit the nail on the head then. It's the thrill of the hunt. It's the excitement of manipulating and scamming somebody. It's very common. A very common thing is for a psychopathic male or female to move in on a married person and say he starts wooing this married woman, and then he might spend years telling her to leave your husband for me. I'm the one for you. He doesn't love you. I love you. And then she might say. She might tell her husband, I've met someone else, and leave. And as soon as he goes to her, she goes to him. He says, oh, I'm not really interested in you anymore, and leaves.
Yeah, so then the woman finally does what he wants, and then he disappears.
That's all he wanted. He wanted the thrill of manipulating her to the point where she destroys her life.
Just to see if she could. Or just to see how far he could go. Like a game. Everything's a game.
Yeah, they seem to harvest some kind of energy from it. When you actually see them in the middle of their scams, when they've really, say, devastated a person, say they've, manipulated a person at work and bullied them terribly, I've actually seen their eyes and seen their body language, and they're giddy like a little kid opening their Christmas presents.
Oh, wow. Exactly. Oh, my gosh, I know this person. Or I think I met all 4% of them, but it's that time again. So, Thomas, hold that right there. Once again, the website is labyrinthpsycho.blogspot.com. That's labyrinthpsycho.blog.com. You can link to his Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, YouTube. Excellent videos, by the way, so check them out. We will be back at the top of the hour, so stay tuned. Truth Brigade Radio.
Are you a socialist? So
no, I have no political. I'm apolitical. No, I'm not a psychopath now, but I'm apolitical. I just believe in human decency. Whatever I think is a good idea to help make people's lives better. That's what I believe. I don't do labels.
Amen.
Okay, well, that's all I got. Stay black, everybody. See you guys next week on an exciting episode of Brigade Radio.
All right, Louis, thanks for calling in and gracing us with your comical humor. That's Louis B. of Crotch Shot Radio. And, wow, he did have an awesome question. And, hey, touching on immortality, I think he was on a serious subject there for a minute, too. But, okay, getting back to the psychopaths, and I guess before, or when Louis called, he asked about psychopaths working together, and I just want to say there were a lot of comments on the chat about saying, oh, yes, they work together very well. They've been doing it all throughout history, keeping us under control. And, yes, that's true. I just want to say I was referring to psychopaths in a relationship, a personal relationship. So... anyways, moving on, can you share with us some of the other kind of secondary traits that might be red flags that we can look for in order to protect ourselves from becoming enthralled with these masterminds?
Yeah, none of them have any real creative talent. Now, by that I mean, if they have an interest in like anything creative, it's always a copy. They can't come up with anything original. They have they're plagiarizers and they're mimics. So if they're an artist, they can't come up with an original style. They'll copy something from a book.
For instance, if they like music or have a great interest in music, they'll take bits and pieces and clips of other music and maybe add a couple things and then call it their own, and all of a sudden they're
if they learn how to play guitar, they're the worst person to be in a band with if you're interested in writing songs, because they have no innovation. And in the same way in business, they've no business creativity. They just use other people's abilities. So they may go into an office and they may discover that some person has a really good idea, and then they'll steal it and then pretend it's their own. So they've no real creativity. They're copyists. They can't come up with an original idea. If they can't write good poetry, they can't be good at, they can't do anything that requires a creative, spontaneous sort of drive. They just don't have it. They copy. Another thing is they're constantly bored. They get bored very, very easily. A lot of them will drink a lot of alcohol and take medications and drugs just to deal with the boredom. And that
wow.
Yeah, boredom is... They get bored like you wouldn't believe. You remember when you were a teenager, when you were like 15, 16, you'd get very bored very easily. Well, they're like that all their lives, and it's a crushing boredom. It's just like... that's why they're always like having sex and stuff like that. And
I'm glad you point that out, because, Thomas, I just always thought that they had to cover up the fact of their soullessness or manipulations with drugs and alcohol, but it's actually the opposite. They just do it all for fun, or... because they're bored.
Well, they're bored, and also, and that's a very good point you brought up there, Christy. They have no inner world. They don't have the inner emotional lives that we have, and the way that's expressed is when they go to bed at night. If anyone's ever been in a relationship with one of them, they fall asleep instantly. It's like a machine turning off. They don't have that moment where they process their thoughts of the day. In their minds, like a normal person, when you go to bed, you'll go over the things that hurt you that day or what made you feel good. They don't have that. When they go to sleep, bam, it's a machine turning off, because they have no worries or cares. And
yesterday didn't happen.
Yeah, and when they wake up, they literally step right out of bed. It's the most strangest thing. And another thing with the sleeping is they don't dream. When you first meet them, they'll give you stories about, I had this dream about us two together, and we were on a ship sailing through the Caribbean, and it was just me and you. And it sounds very phony, and it sounds very contrived and flowery, and that's because they don't know what a dream is. They're making it up. And they're making it up to show there's some kind of kismet or special bond between the two. But once you get into the relationship with them, you never hear them talking about dreaming. It's because they don't dream. They seem to dream.
Yeah, I've even asked them before, because dreams are very important to me, and, inner world, I just, mistakenly assume that that's what people in relationships or friendships kind of share and talk about, and you ask them, I didn't dream, I don't dream, I don't dream, or they'll get mad, why do you want to talk to me about that, or who cares how I feel, I don't know.
Yeah, and there's actually, and the reason for that is that dream imagery and and cognitive processes like that, they